Hi. Hey, it's Stephanie. Welcome to This Reader's Life. I'm glad that you're here today. Today is Poetry Thursday, so that's what we're going to talk about, although the poet that I thought I was going to talk about today turns out I'm not going to talk about. So something else came up. I went on a search today to try to find a book that I thought that I had kept that I hadn't, and it really didn't have anything to do with, well, I didn't think of it as having anything to do with poetry, and then I sort of realized, well, golly, I think this is what I'm going to do, although I did not find the book, which is very disappointing. I did find it on openlibrary.org, but before I talk about that one, I'm actually going to talk about two books, and it is all about poetry, but maybe not as conventional as you might think of. I received a book for my birthday. My birthday was just a couple weeks ago, and my sister gave me this book, and I probably didn't think about it as poetry when I first looked at it, and I just glanced at it and thought it looked like a lot of fun to read, or to look through, but I hadn't actually read it. And then just not too long ago, I looked at the front of the book, and, well, I looked at the book itself, and this is the name of the book, I'll tell you that. It is The Dictionary of Obscure Sorrows, and it's by John Koenig, and it is truly a dictionary, but it's a dictionary of made-up words, which I think is just sort of fascinating. And on the very front of the just a little frontispiece that's here, it says, I read the dictionary. I thought it was a poem about everything. And and that was written by Stephen Wright, who is a comedian who tells wonderful jokes, who I've followed him for years. I'm not sure that he's still alive, but he's been around for a long time. I think the very first joke I ever heard him tell, and he's got such a deadpan sense of humor. And he does everything as if it's almost painful for him to talk to you. And what he said was, I dropped some spot remover on my dog, and now he's gone. Which it makes me laugh. It may not make anybody else laugh. It takes a special kind of sense of humor, and mine has never been normal. So, but anyway, I'll read you a little bit about what this book tells you up front that it's about. And it says, the dictionary evolves over time, of course. New words are coined as needed, emerging one by one from the test lab of our conversations. But that process carries a certain bias, only giving names to concepts that are simple, tangible, communal, and easy to talk about. Emotions are none of those. As a result, there's a huge blind spot in the language of emotion, vast holes in the lexicon that we don't even know we're missing. We have thousands of words for different types of finches and schooners and historical undergarments, but only rudimentary vocabulary to capture the delectable subtleties of the human experience. And then it goes on to say, words will never do us justice, but we have to try anyway. Luckily, the palette of language is infinitely expandable. And it also includes a quote by, I'll try not to butcher his name, Wittgenstein wrote, "The limits of my language are the limits of my world." And that is so true. And it's why vocabulary, I think, means a lot to me. You know, in school, when you had your vocabulary words you had to memorize, I liked that part. A lot of kids, they just rolled their eyes, and I absolutely loved it. And then just one more little blurb is that he says, of course, we don't usually question why a language has words for some things and not others. We don't really imagine we have much choice in the matter, because the words we use to build our lives were mostly handed to us in the crib or picked up on the playground. And that too, I find that to be so true. And this book is made up words. They were made up from real words, not from in a variety of different languages. That's what I'm trying to say. A variety of different languages. And it gives you pronunciation on each one. And and they're just fun. And I'm trying to find a fairly short one here that I can read you, because if you are hiddled is it's from the Old English hiddle, hiding place, and it's pronounced hiddled, and it is an adjective. Hiddled is feeling the loneliness of having to keep a secret to yourself. So if you're feeling hiddled, that would be, it would mean you know something that you do not want to have to deal with on your own. That has to be a secret. Here's another short one. It's fensiveness. It's from the Mandarin word for fan or admirer, and it is pronounced fensiveness, and it is a knee-jerk territorial reaction when a friend displays a casual interest in one of your obsessions. So you go a little territorial on it when it's like, nope, that's my thing. There's dozens and dozens and dozens of words in here, and they all can sort of speak to you depending on where you are in your life at any particular time. So again, this is a book by John Koenig. It was published, I think, in 2021, and I am looking forward to going back to it over and over again because I think it's a lot of fun. The other poet that I'm going to talk about is actually a songwriter and a performer, and that is Harry Chapin. And if you're a little younger, you've never heard of Harry Chapin, probably. He had a lot of popular songs in the 70s, I think from about 1971 to about 1978. His career was a little short-lived. He was killed in a car accident on his way to a charity concert, and so that was the end of his career. And he did a lot of his concerts for free. He didn't die with a lot of money because he gave so much of it away. He had a family, and among some of the songs that were popular that he wrote, and they were ballads, and they were it's the words, the lyrics that I find the most interesting, obviously, if we're going to talk about poetry. And he did The Cat's in the Cradle. He did Taxi. WOLD is what was one that was on the radio for a while. And he talks in concert on his live album. He talks about it, that his songs didn't make it onto the radio often, although all 14 of his singles went to #1. So, but WOLD was about being a disc jockey. And again, his songs are long, so a lot of them you didn't hear them on the radio. They were probably bathroom breaks for a lot of disc jockeys during that time. But anyway, he did write one book of poems, which did include some of his song lyrics to his really long songs that were pretty not particularly well known unless you were a big Harry Chapin fan. But he also wrote a few poems, and I am going to read you one of those poems, and I want to get it pulled up here. Give me just a second. Okay, sorry, I am going to read you the poem. It's called The Royal Kingdom, and it had one word in it that I have remembered since I was probably 15 or 16 when I bought this book and read it. It's beautifully illustrated by Rob White, who I do not know who he is. They're pencil drawings with wonderful shading and very, very unusual illustrations. But so the poem is called The Royal Kingdom, and I will read it. She sat the stoop like an emerald throne, a 3-year-old queen with surf slop hands to prop her chin. Some daredevil or court jester could have made a sporting quip about the less than courtly knees that had heedlessly emerged from her tattered cotton dress. But her wide brown eyes dreamed true regality. And seeing her that adult afternoon, I, for the first time in my own few years, felt envy of the youth that let life lie, deliciously complete, and made her the ruler of the land of anticipation. And I think it was the word surf slop. what a great word. And not a real word, again, if you think about it, talking about the other book as well. But that is one of Harry Chapin's poems that has stayed with me through the years. I think there's something so sweet and good about it, and I really enjoy it. Harry Chapin cared a great deal about children. He cared about people, and was there is now a Harry Chapin. It's the Harry Chapin Foundation, and they fund not-for-profit organizations that help people to become more, live a more sustainable, independent life, and they've done a lot of good. And I think he'd be gratified to know that. But at any rate, that is the poet that I chose for this week. And again, it's not super conventional, and I may do other poetry that would be that is really actually songs. I think there's such beautiful lyrics in so many different songs, and that there are some writers of lyrics that have never been looked on so much as poets, and I think those lyrics are so important. Obviously, music is well, there's not a word for it. So, but that nostalgia you feel, where it brings back a memory into such sharp focus with music, and to me that is poetry. So I might talk about that more, but I'm also getting ready to start kind of for me, a deep dive on W.B. Yeats. So that will be the next one that I do. I've just read a few of his poems. He kept coming up in conversations, and in, I was watching something on TV and they were talking about Yeats and different things, and it's made me kind of curious to know more. So I have been reading a little bit of his poetry, and I'll talk about that again on another Thursday. But until then, y'all have a good day. Be kind to yourself, be kind to others, be kind to the planet, and be blessed. Take care. Bye-bye.